match review panel, they'll have a reviewer. We'll watch every single tackle on and off the ball, and regardless of what the referee does in the game. To be honest, a lot of the time they don't even look at the rest report.
Welcome to the Dockhouse Rugby Show. Dave and myself are joined once again by our resident referee. It's former Superleague referee and ambassador for the State of Mind charity. It's Mr. Ian Smith. Ian, welcome once again to the Rugby Show.
Good evening, guys. Hope you're well.
Yeah, we're great. Thank you. We're great. So, Ian, we're going to jump straight into it. There's been lots of hype, lots of topic, lots of talks. Twitter's been on fire. Social media has been set ablaze. And we're at the end of the season now, so I want to have a little reflect back on some of the things and how you think, as a former referee, how some of those instances have played out, the current state of Rugby League and the Super League. And we've also put some questions out to our followers on our social media, and they've kindly responded with some questions for you as well, Ian. So hard hat on. No, you're not a referee anymore now, so it's not. But what we love is you have that opinion. You know the other side of the line. That as a fan, there's a bias. Whether you agree or disagree, there's an element of bias as a fan, isn't there? So you're on the other side of that. You're the flip side. You've been that pantomime villain. You've been booed and chased off the field. But let's get straight into it, Dave.
Yeah. Welcome in. There's been so much talk. Well, throughout the full season, there was so much talk about referees and the match review panel. It seems to make sense to wait until the end of the season to discuss some of those topics. So if we take ourselves right back to the start of the season, what we saw is a very strict approach from the referees on things like high tackles, certainly anything around the head that could be dangerous, and large bans being handed out, which caused lots of frustrations to fans, and many journalists as well were not happy with the way of that approach. And some of the coaches hinting towards the fact that they felt their players were harshly done to in the games, and certainly by the bans. So can you recall why there was quite a strict approach to some of these things right back at the start of this season?
Oh, look, I think they want to make the game safer for the player, short, medium, long term, when it comes to brain injuries and head injuries. And I get that, absolutely get that. So what they wanted to do was make sure that encourage a player to tackle from the shoulder down. And the only way you can encourage that is to penalise the high tackles. So it was a case of, we will force players to tackle from the shoulder down by giving large bans where there's foul play and there's contact with the head, either direct, secondary, or where there's flexion of the neck, where a player is pushed from behind and there's that whiplash type incident. So the referees were informed and told that, look, you must sin bin and send players off where there is contact with the head, regardless of force. And the match review panel backed up all that by giving out some very long bans for that type of foul play. And I think it's a brutal sport. And I think sometimes players do time it wrong and they're more careless and reckless. And I think some of the challenges were being severely punished where there was no risk to head injuries. And I'm not quite sure whether early doors they quite got the balance right. And because players were missing so many games, the game was in uproar. So after, round 6 or 7, they almost changed overnight, where the match review panel backed off, the referees were told to back off, and things that were being sent off in 2 and 3 matches right at the beginning were getting 1 and 2 and all the sin bin. So that caused a lot of confusion. If I'm being honest, it caused a lot of inconsistency. It caused a lot of aggro towards the referee, because then, hang on a minute, week 1, 2 and 3, that was a send-off. Now it isn't. Yeah. I know, but the referees were told that wasn't. So don't blame the referee for following instructions and following what they're told to do from their bosses, the big bosses, and the match review panel. So I felt at times the referees were thrown on the bus a little bit.
Yeah, certainly it was done with good intent, I would say. It's there to protect players, and some of the long-term health concerns we have over some of the players who played decades before are quite worrying, and we need to figure out a way of trying to keep the sport safe whilst not taking away from it that side that makes it so interesting and engaging to watch. And that's really difficult to do that. We're trying to do it through strict penalties through the referee and MRP, but it's been difficult to get right that balance, as you say, Ian. And following those changes, do you feel as though things got better eventually? Did you feel as though it settled down after a few weeks?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I still think that there are other ways that you can educate players. And I still think that some of the bans were slightly over the top. I'm glad that they did back off a little bit. But there were some tackles that I felt weren't bans. I can't remember any specifics, but I still think that I wasn't sure with respect to the match review panel, and it's an incredibly difficult job to do. I didn't think they quite got the balance right over the course of the whole year. But I wouldn't like to be on the match review panel. I have absolute sympathy for them because you want to make the game safe for the players, absolute paramount, 100% agree, but it can't lose its toughness and its brutality and its combativeness, because that's what gets the fans there, and we want to bring back the biff, but not to the detriment of risking players get head injuries and long-term memory loss and all that lot. So it's a really difficult juggling act, and only time will tell whether what they've done, how hard they've gone in, is right. But what we don't want is for players to have head injuries to say, something, no, we backed off wrong. And it's a really difficult one for the referees and for the match review panel and for the game as a whole.
Yeah, I guess there's a risk with anything, particularly with a brutal sport such as rugby league. Even playing it and eliminating as much as you can, it'll still carry some risk. But where is it an acceptable risk? And that's not a very clear line. It's not an easy one to find. And I suspect we're in a process of trying to figure that out at the moment. And we're not going to always get it right whilst we try and get there. But I'd say we've just got to be patient with the players, the matches, the refs and the MRP. Whilst we all try and figure it out, we're all pulling in the same direction. We all want it brutal, tough, engaging, but safe. So yeah, let's keep an eye on that. One of the other things that has come up, Ian, and has been on my mind quite a few times throughout the year, and if you can describe to us how the reviewer will look at the game afterwards, because there's one criticism that we're not consistent, and then there's other criticisms that, well, the ref missed it, it went on, no one's hurt, why has it been brought up, no one's seen anything, and the next thing I read in the paper, somebody's been given a 2-game ban. I don't even remember what it was for. How's that happened? So can you describe how that works after a game?
Yeah, I think there's a misconception here that the referees and the match review panel are intrinsically linked like that, but they're not. The referee will referee the game as he sees it, and he will have a reviewer, and the referee and the ref's coach will watch the game, and they will give a score, they'll get points, and they'll look at different aspects of the game. And sometimes the game is so fast and moving, you just miss things. So that is a referee, and that's for the referee and the referee's coach to try to work out how best to referee that game. The match review panel are totally separate. They will watch all 6 games, and they will watch every tackle, every bit of foul play. They'll rewind it, they'll pause it, they'll go forward, and they will see all the different contacts all the way through the game. Then the match review panel will meet on a Monday, and all the bits of foul play that they bring from each game, they will discuss as a group of 3 or 4. And then that's where they do the gradings. but they don't take in the referee's report. They don't take anything to do with what the referee has made on that game. And to be fair, there's times where, oh my God, what happened there? I might put that on report, or if it's a non-tele game, so I don't get the video ref's input, at speed when it's over there. And did it hit his shoulder and come up, or was it direct contact? So if it's direct contact, is it red? If it's glanced off the shoulder, is it yellow? And there's so many different things. So the match review panel take all the emotion and all the variables from the referee that might not be able to see. So I totally get why they have to be separated. I don't understand sometimes why they don't take the referee's report into, because he's got his eyes on the ground and he may have a clear view of it. So, but they don't. The match review panel will just do what they see, regardless of what the referee gave, which I'm not too sure. I do also think there should be a referee on the match review panel, by the way, and that's not me putting myself forward, because I don't want it for a gold clock. But I do think, because it's all players and coach centric, they only seeing it from that side. And I think it's really important that the referee's opinion on why I know in retrospective why they will give that from the view. I was on an international match review panel the either last year or the year before, I can't remember, and the referee put a player in the sin bin for a late contact, and they gave him a 2-game ban. It was a Jamaican player, and they appealed, and I was on the appeal, and they said, but the referee has put him in the sin bin because of the dangerous late contact. I said, well, actually, he hasn't. The referee put him in the sin bin because the tackle before, there was a warning that the next penalty, the player would go in the sin bin. So that player went in the sin bin for persistent infringement, not because of that challenge. So I just think if you're not careful, you only get in one side. And believe it or not, referees are very well versed and very well educated in collision, just because we might not have made any of these tackles. But as a ref's coach, I would watch 10 games a week, 600 collisions a game. I would watch 6,000 collisions and 6,000 play the balls a week. Over a 30-week season, I'd watch 180,000 collisions. So I can tell you, I know exactly what a player should and shouldn't do in contact and getting away from the tackle. And just because I've not done that as a player doesn't mean to say I don't understand the idiosyncrasies of what has to be done from the ball carrier and the defender. And I just think that a referee's view, as well as the ex-players and ex-coaches' view on the match view panel, would be better. Like I say, I'm definitely not volunteering for that because I don't envy him whatsoever.
Yeah. And one of the problems with that system is there could be a late tackle, late hit, something worthy of a ban. It's only picked up afterwards. So the team that late tackle or high tackle was against doesn't get the benefit. It's a different team the week after and week after that who get the benefit. Is there any way around that?
No, there isn't. The only way around that is if there's a video ref at every game and you referee every game from the video booth. So no, we have to accept that referees are human beings. We have to accept that referees, without prejudice, without being biased, will make mistakes. And if that means that the match review panel, because of what their process is, that player gets a ban the following week, then so be it. The referee doesn't want to miss a high tackle, doesn't want to miss a late challenge. But unfortunately, we do. And you've got to accept that there are two separate things. Let the referee ref and give them clear guidance of what it is. If it's that, is it reckless? Is it careless? Is it deliberate? What do you expect the referee to do? Give him clear guidance of what each challenge should be. And if he misses it, then that's for the referee and the reviewer to say, hang on a minute, look how late that challenge is. Why have you missed that? What should you do? Where's your view? That's totally different to the retrospective match review panel banning it. So that's where they are separate. And they should be, in my opinion. The referee will make mistakes, and we've got to accept that. Players make mistakes. We accept that. So,
So there's no real solution to that problem other than having a video ref who is reffing in real time, which will slow the game down because they may have to watch it 4 or 5 times to be accurate with that judgment. And we want to wait around that long waiting for that judgment?
No, it takes the heartbeat out of the game, doesn't it? If you stop, start, you lose that momentum. Players probably lose a bit of focus as well.
And it's midnight before you finish the game.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at 4 hours because everything's, you know, oh, just wait. Like, no, it wasn't late. Oh, great. Thanks. You know, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, and then staying up with the match review panel as well, I know we had a bit of an earlier conversation, but you hit on a great topic about, we was asked about inconsistencies within the match review panel. One tackle might get a 2-match ban, one might tackle be issued with a 4-match ban. And you gave a great insight into, yes, there are some inconsistencies that you thought, Ian, but you know, your viewpoint behind why there was inconsistencies there.
I don't think it's so much inconsistency. I think people don't understand the process and the mitigating factors regarding injuries. You know, they say, well, a punch is between grade A and grade C. Why is it so big? Well, because was it sustained? Was there a lot of it? And what was the mitigating factors of force? You know, like we spoke before, if you punch me and I just get a little glance and a little graze, or there's nothing, that'll be treated differently than in you punch me and I break my eye socket, my jaw and my cheekbone, because the mitigating factor is the extent of the injury. The extent of the injury will determine force. So that's why there's such a big disparity in the grading. Oh, he got a grade A for a punch. Or he got a grade C for a punch. That's inconsistent. Well, actually, no. Look how hard he punched him. Look at the injury that he caused by that punch. Look at the force. Look at the velocity. Look at the sustained. So there's different. So just to say it was a punch and it was a punch and one was a grade A and one was a grade C is bizarre because it's not. No 2 punches are the same. No 2 high tackles are the same. So there has to be a disparity in the grading. And to be fair to the match review panel, they are very good at that. I think sometimes they either went in a bit too strong or fans, with respect, don't understand the full process of why each thing is different, careless, reckless, or deliberate. Does it answer that?
It does, but you also mentioned about the cameras.
Oh, yeah.
A live televised Superleague game as opposed to one that isn't televised.
Yeah, if you got 6 games on a weekend and 2 are on telly, on Sky you've got 9 cameras. You've got 2 in the middle, you've got 4 in the corners, 2 high behinds and a roving one. On a non-televised game, you've got 2 in the middle. It's a close-in one and it's a wide one. So you haven't got the forward corners, you haven't got the high behinds. So if I'm on Sky as a player and I punch somebody in that far corner of the pitch, that corner and the high behind will actually see that. So the match review panel have got more chance of knowing where the contact was, what the ferocity was. Did it make direct contact? If it's a non-Sky game, you just got them 2 in the middle over the halfway line, and I punch somebody in that bottom corner, the chances of, if it's on the blind side, the chances of these cameras picking it up, and bearing in mind, they don't go off the referee or the touch judges thing. They'll just say no further action because it's inconclusive. So it is inconsistent, but that's not match review panel's fault. That's just because each game, unlike the NRL that may have 10 or 11 cameras at every game, we only have 2 or 3 games a weekend where there are 9 cameras. The rest of the time, there's just the 2 over the halfway line. Yeah. So, but again, that's not match review panel's fault. That's just cost and
show business.
Absolutely, yeah, show business. Yeah.
So, I mean, some very good points there, Ian and Keith, and it leads me on to the next point we have here, really, that the perception of referees and the perception of the MRP panel at the moment is quite poor in many cases. They believe it's inconsistent. They believe there's harshly treat some clubs more than other clubs. There's a feeling that the top clubs are treated more fairly than the other clubs. So those 3 who've won the Super League in the last 17 years, is it? Yeah. Leeds, St Helens and Wigan are treated more fairly by that. Now, I don't believe that is the case, actually, but that is the perception. So why would people think that when we believe it isn't actually the way it works?
Oh, I think everybody loves an agenda, don't they? Everybody likes to think the team's been wronged. And And if a decision goes towards a perceived big club, it's because they're a big club. What they don't realise is the decisions that have gone against their club. They only focus on the ones that have gone for the club. And that's what fans do. They're all blinkered. And that's great, by the way, because that's what you do, because you're a passionate fan and you want your team to get everything. But I don't believe, and I'd like to think that it doesn't happen where the big clubs get everything. The match review panels certainly see it absolutely black and white, regardless of what club. And I know the referees do. The referees don't go out there consciously to give a big club all the decisions, because it's just not in, one, it's not in our nature, but two, if I keep giving all the big clubs the decisions and they turn out to be wrong, then I won't have a game the following week in Superleague. That was my. I couldn't care less whether Wigan win, whether St Helens win, whether London, whether Catalan, whatever it is, because I wanted Ian Smith to be on Superleague the following week. So I give the best decisions in that game to suit me, not to suit the clubs, because I couldn't care less who won the league. I could not give a monkeys who won that league. And I know the refs now. I speak to them, and some of them are really close friends, and they're not bothered who wins the league. They want to do the best for them because they want a grand final, they want a semi-final, they want a playoff game, they want a Challenge Cup final. And if it means that they give the best decisions that they possibly can be, regardless of what club it is, then so be it.
I would hope, and you're right, you touched on a good point there, we want the fans to cheer on their teams and be very passionate. That's what fans bring to these matches, and when you get a full crowd in with two teams going at it, and each team thinking they're the ones being hard done to, it creates a great atmosphere. So I don't blame fans for having that perception that they feel as though they're hard done to. I think in many ways that's quite natural in all sports. Everyone feels as though their teams are quite harsh. But I'd like to think in the cold light today, when they go away and maybe they watch it again and they settle down a bit when the emotions have subsided, that they can look at it a bit more rationally and they're a bit more reasonable. You
obviously haven't seen my Twitter feed then, have you?
I'm wishing for too much there, am I? Yeah.
Oh, no. To be fair, I get a lot of questions on social media about referees' decisions because, the referees aren't allowed to answer them. So and they're great. The vast majority are absolutely wonderful and genuinely want to be educated, because there is a myriad of decisions that they just genuinely don't know the answer to. And it's great to try and inform and educate, and hopefully, that's for the better. But I have no problem with people asking me questions in any guise, and I'll give an honest answer. And I always say, look, feel free to disagree. I'll respect your opinion, and just respect the right that I have. My opinion might be differ. But I never come across and say, look, I referee 400 games and I video ref 400 games, because it's not about the I am. The difference is that I do know the laws of the game. I know the policies. I know the procedures, because that was my job. And it's still in me to want to know why referees are giving what they're giving.
Yeah.
And some fans just see the big picture, not the little idiosyncrasies and the fine detail. That's the difference in why it's a penalty and why it's not. So let's educate, let's inform, and let's enthuse everybody to know the laws of the game.
Yeah, I totally agree, and hopefully this show will help a little bit. I suspect some will accept your view, and some may have further questions, and that's fine. You can leave it in the YouTube comments, and we'll make sure we try and answer all of those. So I've just got 3 more points that I wanted to put to you, Ian, from many of the questions that have come up. So a lot of them I've kind of grouped into different areas. One that keeps coming up at the moment, time and time again, is around players faking injury. Is there any way of stopping that? How do we know they're faking it, or whether it's real? Is there a way of knowing?
No. The honest answer is I don't think there is. I think it's about the integrity of the player. If winning to that cost or getting that decision means that much to their integrity that they're willing to pretend that they're injured, then eventually they'll get found out. And they're the ones that have to look in the mirror at the end of the day, knowing that they pretended that they're injured when they're not. And I don't like that. Look, that's not the rugby league that I want to watch. That's not the rugby league that I love. And if that's what they're trying to do, then I don't like it. But one thing I don't think fans always realise is that players might come in with having had a shoulder up or having had a knee up, and somebody can come and they can literally whack the shoulder and it has no effect. But then another person who maybe has had 2 or 3 shoulder ups, it might not take as much. So who's to say that they're faking it?
Yes.
You know, when you've got an 100 kilogram bloke absolutely ripping into you, who's to say that you're faking it? You know, I took up refereeing because as an amateur player, I wasn't good enough and I didn't want an 80 to 100 kilogram bloke knocking me over. So I thought, you know, the safest thing to do here is to take up the whistle. So who is it, us at 60, 70 kilograms sat on a settee at home saying that he's faking an injury? But only the player knows.
It's very difficult to know if someone's faking it. I think I had a discussion on social media about where's the line with all this, with cheating. You know, for years people have kicked the ball over the top and then pretended when someone's just caught them, they've gone down. They've exaggerated it. So I'm not sure where the line is, but it does seem to be accepted more if someone is fouled but exaggerates it a little bit to try and bring it to the referee's attention and to try and gain an advantage. But if someone artificially creates something, they're not injured at all, but pretends to be, then that seems to have crossed that line and people don't like it. And it's not a good look for Rugby League. I can't think of a way referees or the game can stop it other than keep calling them out and questioning it. And I think we accept a little bit of exaggeration, but not artificial.
That's for the match review panel to sort out. It's not for the referee on the game. None of us and none of the referees, I can assure you, are medically trained to realise when somebody's faking injury or not. So that is for the match review panel to find out and challenge that player to say, how come, why on that tackle did you do that? Why did you hold your shoulder? Well, I've had 3 shoulder ups. It didn't take much to hurt my shoulder. Okay. You know, and maybe they might lie, but we have to try to get the full picture, and that is absolutely not a referee's fault. But you talk about cheating and maybe faking injuries. What about when a player steals a ball in a 2-on-1 tackle and then pretends that it were dropped and the referee gives a knock on and then you see on the big screen that he stole it?
Yeah.
You know, is that the same thing? You know, or they feel a hand on the ball, so they just let go of it. Oh, he stole it. Yeah. You know, so there's always different variants
of variance,
cheating.
There's some cheating that seems to be accepted and some that isn't. I can't describe which or why or how.
Acceptable cheating, Dave. Right, I'm going to write that one down.
We should write that down.
Acceptable cheating.
It is a bit odd. And then following on from that, what you get is, it's happened a couple of times this year where a player's trying to pick another player up when they've been injured. And often the argument is, well, they've been banned for picking someone who fakes an injury up. So the counter-argument is very often that, well, that player isn't medically trained and they don't know whether they're faking or not, so best to leave them alone. And there have been inconsistent bans on those. Yeah. You know, the Halifax player got 8 games, which seems very harsh.
Luke Gale did when he tried to pick Lomax up.
Yeah.
And my view on that one.
Will Price got a good few matches for that, didn't
Price
he?
As well, yeah. And like that one there, like the likes of Luke Gale, he did make contact with Lomax. Lomax did go to the ground, and at that point, he's face down. So you don't know if he is injured or what. And I don't think Lomax is the kind of player to feign an injury.
Well, he was caught.
Trying to pick him up.
He was caught, Lomax. He was definitely caught. But was that acceptable exaggeration?
Yeah, but that's not. That's not for Luke Gale to determine that, is it? Yeah. That's not him. And the message keeps going out to the players: do not try to pick up an injured player because you don't know what extent. Even if you think he's faking it because you've not touched him, that's not your job. Your job is to let the medical staff, the physio and the doctors to get on and treat that player appropriately. And if he gets up and runs off, then so be it. Maybe wait till he gets the ball next time and drop your shoulder into him and show him what a proper tackle is. Yeah. But, you know, I'm not quite sure whether that length of ban serves a purpose. It should be about education. This is not somebody leading with an elbow or waiting for him and coming in with a swinging arm. This is somebody who at that moment in time has thought, you've cheated me, I'm going to lift you up, or you're not injured. Come on, educate him. 10 matches. What good will 8 or 10 matches sit on the sideline for something like that?
Not fix the problem. It's happened, hasn't it? They've done it wrongly, heat of the moment. It's a poor decision, but harshly treated. So, I have some sympathy with them. And
I do.
I do wonder whether in some cases we have a bit of a point system. So rather than ban them straight away for something like that, they're given, like in cricket, they have demerit points, or in football they get yellows, which are bookings, and in tournaments they can add up to being a ban if they get so many. So I do wonder in cases like that, not with obvious high tackles or dangerous play, but in cases like that they may get 10 demerit points, and if they get 30 demerit points in any 1 month, that is a 1 game ban or something. Leaving out errors, I think, as well for the match review panel or for referees or because if you've made a single error, you're unlikely to repeat that error 3 times in a month, so it wouldn't lead to a ban. So I think we should propose that with our other great ideas, that promoted teams get 14 players, and if you're behind more than 20 points in the game, all kicks are worth 3 points. We'll put them to IMG. I think we're pretty certain they'll be.
I think we're on to a winner there, Dave.
Definitely.
No, but I think the ban is disproportionate for the offence. I know they're saying the risk of injury. Now, them players didn't end up getting injured. So again, the mitigating circumstances, yes, I shouldn't have picked him up. However, I have not made him injured. They're saying, well, you could have done. Yes, but I didn't. So educate me. Make sure that rather than go 8 matches, but I lifted him up, but there was nothing wrong. And I get where the RFL are coming from, by the way, but I just think it's disproportionate when you think some of the foul play that they're trying to sort out.
There's a better way of dealing with that type of incident. Yeah, and 8 matches for a part-time player is really harsh and has an impact on their income, which is often linked to
performance.
Play. So so that's harsh. Well, the final one I've got written down, which I've left till last in case it rumbles on for an hour, is the chicken wing tackle, and in reference particularly to what happened. Yeah, with Morgan Knowles. And we tried to replicate this earlier where Keith tried to put my arm up my back, but he's that much shorter than me. He couldn't get it above my waist anyway. No. He was on his tiptoes, so it didn't work, did it? No, trial.
You should have tried it with Buddy the dog.
More chance with that one.
Yeah. So he's jumping up and down, but it went through. The player was banned for 2 games. It went to a review, went to a second review, and I don't want us to get into that process because it's been documented and discussed so much. I think everyone who's interested in it has read about it. But I just want to talk really about the act itself of grabbing the wrist and putting it behind the back of a player. So the way I read that is that Morgan Knowles, as all players are, trying to slow the play of the ball. They often pin an arm to the floor or to the body because it'll get you an extra couple of seconds because the player can't put the hand down to stand up to play the ball. So he
was also in the act of because if you remember at one time the idea is to turn the player as well.
Yeah,
so they've got to spin back round and then play the ball. Yeah. And I think he was trying to guide him that way. I think with Siriner on the other end kind of had him in almost like a headlock.
James Roby gripped the upper body.
Yeah. And then he was walking back towards his try line, Knowles, and taking Aiken's arm with him. So. Yeah.
And there's much debate over that, but my take on it is that even though we may or may not have put him in a dangerous position, I think it's heading towards a dangerous position, and it's not a type of tackle I like to see in rugby league. It's not a rugby league tackle for me. So I know why the player did it. It might be a technique that got slightly wrong and therefore close to being dangerous. But what's your take on the actual act itself, Ian?
I agree that there's no place for that type of tackle in rugby league. I'd like to think that when they went into contact, his thought process was, do you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a lever here and I'm going to pin his arm up his back. You're right. Well, trying to slow the play of the ball, that's absolutely what it is. But that's not a professional foul. That is just trying to win contact, win collision to slow the play of the ball so your defensive team can get set on the line and come forward. And I agree with Keith. I think he got the arm to use it as a lever to try to spin him round so he was facing the wrong way. Then as it starts to come up his back, I think he got to a point where you could almost see the panic in his face thinking, I've got this wrong here. And then Aitken managed to get out of it by throwing himself around. And it just looked ugly. It's not a rugby league tackle, but players do grab levers, do grab arms, do try to pin arms in because they don't want to get them free. And because of how flippy and all that lot arms can be, they want to grab hold of them to try to slow them down. It deserved a ban for me. I think it was reckless. I don't think it was deliberate. And I think it deserved a ban. The process after that became a bit of a farce, to be honest. But I think...
The show trial in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just think it deserved a ban because that's not what we want to encourage within rugby league players. We want them to drop the shoulder and we want them to hit them hard. But unfortunately, the ball carrier, sometimes they go and they try and drop. So when they try and hit and drop, the players try and catch and hold, and then they try to turn them. And when they're turning them, sometimes they do use that lever to turn them. And it was just that perfect storm, if you like, where everything went wrong. He got his arm, he tries to turn him, he tries to pull it, realizes, oh my God. And all of a sudden, it just looked so ugly. And I know it would have been a grand final, but I think morally, St Helens should have accepted a ban because that's not what we're there to encourage. But St Helens have a duty to their own players and their team and their fans to win a grand final. And I just think that whole thing was an ugly look for rugby league and not great going forward. But it creates talking points, you know.
Everybody did speak about it. It was in the news, and probably people that don't have that much of an opinion on it had an opinion about that situation. But also, like you say, Ian, has it set a precedent for...
No, I don't think so, because I don't think we'll ever see that type of tackle where it's so obvious that there's something not quite right with the way he's turning his arm. I think the process after and the bit of a farce regarding the two appeals, I just think that I don't think that'll happen again, because that was the judge making some comments that actually played into St Helens' hands and the whole rigmarole around that. And I think going forward, the judge and the side panel members would be more careful on their wording. So I think that's a separate sideshow that I've never seen before in all my years in rugby league. So I don't think we'll probably see it again. But you know, they're allowed an appeal. And if they're appealing third right or there's some problem in that, then they're allowed to appeal the appeal.
Yeah.
And you are in law, you know, so it is a judicial system that the RFL have brought in.
People saying how come Saints got one so quick, but it is in the Constitution that as long as you get an appeal in and lodge it before, I think it was 11 a.m. and they'd had it done by 8 o'clock just to make sure that there was enough time that it was seen and read, and it wasn't like on the 11th hour and everything. Everything was done.
Saints procedurally, I don't think they did anything wrong. No. Whether morally they did something wrong because of that type of tackle, that's a debate for another show.
Yeah,
but it just wasn't a good look. And I think it deserved punishment. And I think the whole game, even if it had only missed one game with it being the grand final, I think the game felt that it was a bannable offence. But Saints, fair play to them, they went down the procedural route, and the procedure was inconsistent with the findings and the judge's words and one thing and another. So they found a loophole, that's the right terminology, to get his ban overturned. So fair play to him legally, but maybe not morally.
You're right, they didn't break any rules, but they did spot a potential error in the wording and use that to their advantage at the second appeal, which just feels a bit wrong, doesn't it? They haven't actually done anything wrong, but it just doesn't feel right. And the whole procedure, the whole process, the tackle itself, it all just doesn't look great for rugby league. Whichever side of that argument you're on. I agree. I don't think Morgan Knowles is a dirty player. I don't think his intent was to injure the player at all. I don't think I've met anyone who's
No, it
intentionally
to.
wanted to injure a fellow professional. So I don't think that is accurate at all. I do think you're right. I think he tried to spin them round, put him in an awkward position, and he's got it all wrong.
Yeah.
And
you also, we don't know what's gone on a couple of tackles before, whether there's been a bit of a niggle and it's a bit of like, I'll just throw you back and throw you out. Not, like I say, not lift his arm and put him in that position, but while he's got him, it's like, oh yeah, you got one on me before, you know. Kind of
but you've testosterone, you've adrenaline, you've got a big game at stake, and sometimes your cognitive thought process is not always there. And when you look at these things in slow motion, it's so different. You play it at full speed and it goes into collision contact. Jane Robbins gets the arm, tries to spin him round. All of a sudden, oh my God, and it goes like that. It happens very quick. It's not done at slow motion. So I think it was reckless. I don't think it was deliberate with intent to hurt. But at pace, at time, with the adrenaline, and it's close to the line, close to my try line here, so I can't afford to let him go. So I'm going to grab any lever. I'm going to do anything to stop him playing that ball, to stop somebody scooting and scoring a try. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, I've got that wrong. But by getting it wrong in the heat of battle doesn't mean to say that he doesn't deserve a ban. And that tackle, in its individual right, deserved punishment as a minimum of a match ban. And I think then the subsequence for Aurora and Facade is whatever is just morally wrong.
I agree, Ian. I think if we did consider in future something like a demerit point system, where
you're selling this demerit point, aren't you, Dave?
Every opportunity I get, the pi demerit system, the Rugby League pi demerit system. They could. Morgan Knowles then could have got points.
Pi d squared.
Pi d squared, yeah. Pi squared system. I'd say it evens it out, I think, where you may not be punished that game following, and you'll know going into the match how many points you've got. If you've got a player on 30 points and the cut-off is 40, you might be thinking, I'm not going to risk this player, I want them for the final. It happens in football tournaments where they get to a certain level and the points are scrapped and they start again, don't they? Is it the quarterfinals in the World Cup? Whatever points you've got in those rounds, everyone's
all in for Bungos.
Starts again. Yeah. So I'll take every opportunity to keep selling that. But it's really interesting listening to your view and your perception of it, and I think it is similar to ours, and that many people who've posted and considered it on social media and in forums as well.
Yeah, well, the debate will rage on, and like you say, I'm sure we'll be back with other shows on it. On behalf of myself and Dave, Ian, thank you very much. It's great to listen to you. It's great to listen to your side of it, because obviously, like you say, you know that law book inside out and back to front, having been, your career as a former Super League referee. So thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, it's a pleasure.
Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. If you've got a comment that you want to leave for Ian, and either us will feed it back to Ian, or Ian may just directly get involved and comment on there. So thanks again, everyone. Don't forget to click, like, and subscribe, and leave your comments. And you've been watching the Dockhouse Rugby Show.
It's been great to be on the Dockhouse Show tonight with these two. The one thing that I'm passionate about, besides being a rugby league referee, is working for State of Mind Sport Charity. We talk about the importance of mental fitness. So please, wherever you are, if you're struggling, just talk. But if you get a chance to go on the State of Mind Sport website or Twitter feeds or anything, please have a look us up and follow and like, and it'd be absolutely fantastic. And thanks very much to these gentlemen for allowing me to talk about the State of Mind Sport platform. Thank you.